Have you ever heard of the almighty Latin kings and Ñetas? One symbolizes power and tight organization, spreading across North and South America. The other rose from Puerto Rican prisons, wielding unity as a weapon. These two organizations are renowned not only for their influence but also for the dramatic conflicts and stories behind them. In today's video, we will explore it all. Who are they? What shaped the differences between them? How do they operate? Where does their power come from? And what are their complex ties with society? And finally, why has their rivalry become legendary in the underworld? Let's dive in together. 1. Objectives and scope of operations. Almighty Latin Kings. The Almighty Latin Kings, or simply Latin Kings, emerged in the 1940s in Chicago, USA. At that time, the backdrop was a society full of injustice, where Latinos frequently faced racism and inequities in employment, education, and daily life. Initially, the organization was formed as a community movement to protect Latino rights and foster pride in their cultural heritage. However, as social divisions deepened, their goals began to shift. The Latin Kings transitioned from legitimate community activities to illegal operations aimed at controlling territories, generating profit, and protecting their members. What started as a community organization evolved into one of the most powerful criminal networks in North America. Ñetas. In contrast, the Ñetas formed under very different circumstances. Established in the 1970s within Puerto Rican prisons, Ñetas began as a self-defense organization, created to protect vulnerable inmates from abuse in harsh prison environments. This group not only offered protection but also fostered solidarity, helping inmates find meaning in life. Over time, Ñetas' influence extended beyond prisons. They became a small yet powerful social movement in Puerto Rico, reflecting the need for protection and unity among marginalized communities. Although smaller in scale compared to the Latin Kings, Ñetas hold a vital position within Puerto Rico's social ecosystem. Background and comparison. The origins of these two organizations clearly reflect the socio-economic conditions of the environments in which they emerged. The Latin Kings grew within the urban setting of the United States, influenced by racial discrimination and social inequality. Meanwhile, the Ñetas were born within the prison system, where survival depended on unity and self-defense. In terms of scope, the Latin Kings surpass Ñetas significantly. They have expanded their power beyond U.S. borders into several Latin American countries. Ñetas, on the other hand, remain focused on Puerto Rico and smaller areas in the U.S. with Puerto Rican migrant populations. This difference highlights not just geographical scope but also their approach to achieving their objectives. To truly understand their strength, we need to delve deeper into their structure and operational strategies. Let's explore this next. 2. Organizational structure and operational strategies. Structure of the Almighty Latin Kings. The Latin Kings are known for their tightly organized structure, often compared to a pyramid. At the top is the Inca, the supreme leader who wields ultimate power. Below the Inca are the caciques, regional leaders responsible for coordinating and managing smaller groups. Each member has a specific role within the system, ranging from basic members to leadership roles. This structure is complemented by a strict set of rules known as the manifesto, an internal document that outlines their philosophy, rules, and member obligations. This discipline not only maintains stability but also strengthens member loyalty. Structure of Ñetas. Ñetas, on the other hand, portray a more flexible and decentralized structure. Without a supreme leader, they operate through self-governing councils. Major decisions are made collectively by key members, reflecting an internal democratic spirit. Despite lacking a complex hierarchy, Ñetas maintain cohesion through trust and solidarity. This is especially critical in prison environments, where members rely on one another for survival. Operational strategies. Latin Kings. This organization employs strategies centered on territorial expansion and power control. They actively engage in illegal activities such as drug trafficking, money laundering, and extortion to maintain financial strength. Their rigid structure enables them to execute large-scale operations effectively. Ñetas. Ñetas focus on flexibility and community bonds. While they do not prioritize territorial control, they build strong support networks within prisons and communities. These networks not only ensure their survival but also amplify their influence in the areas they occupy. 3. Main sources of income and levels of violence. Income sources of almighty Latin kings. Asterisk. The Latin Kings are considered one of the wealthiest criminal organizations in the U.S. thanks to their large-scale drug trafficking network. They control drug supply chains from Latin American countries such as Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, bringing heroin, cocaine, and marijuana into U.S. markets. This provides them with immense financial resources, ensuring their long-term operations. Besides drug trafficking, they engage in money laundering, protection rackets, and weapons smuggling. This financial network not only sustains their power but also extends their influence beyond traditional territories. Income sources of Ñetas. Asterisk. In contrast, Ñetas operate with much smaller financial resources. Most of their income comes from drug trade within prisons and small-scale operations in certain communities. Additionally, they earn through illicit activities such as extortion and black market dealings. However, their limited resources prevent them from achieving the same level of reach as the Latin Kings. Instead, they optimize smaller income sources to sustain their operations and support their members. Level of violence. Latin Kings. Known for their willingness to use violence, the Latin Kings engage in turf wars and violent confrontations with rival gangs such as Bloods, Crips, or Mississippi 13. These acts of violence, including shootings and retaliatory attacks, serve both as warnings to enemies and a means of maintaining internal discipline. Ñetas. Although Ñetas are also involved in violence, their approach is more defensive. Most conflicts occur within prison walls, often involving rival groups like the 27s or Mississippi 13. Outside of prison, they focus more on building support networks than engaging in violent acts. 4. Relationships with the government and society. Scope and influence. Relationship between almighty Latin kings and the government and society. Asterisk. The Latin Kings often present themselves as a cultural movement to build relationships with the community. They organize cultural events, support marginalized groups, and position themselves as protectors of the Latino community in the United States. However, the U.S. government, particularly agencies like the FBI and DEA, consider them one of the most dangerous gangs. Operations such as Operation Kingpin have significantly weakened several of their chapters. Despite this, in many areas, the Latin Kings still command respect from the local community, as they are seen not only as a gang but also as a force of resistance against social injustices. Relationship between Ñetas and the government and society. Asterisk. Ñetas maintain a more combative relationship with the Puerto Rican government, which views them as a major threat within prisons and certain communities. However, among many impoverished workers in Puerto Rico, Ñetas are seen as a symbol of solidarity and resistance against societal injustices. Additionally, Ñetas have strong ties with Puerto Rican migrant communities in the U.S. in areas such as the Bronx or Brooklyn. They function more as a support network than a purely criminal gang. Scope and influence of almighty Latin Kings. The Latin Kings have thousands of members spanning major states such as Illinois, New York, and California, as well as multiple Latin American countries. Their influence extends not only in the criminal underworld but also in pop culture, including hip-hop music and street fashion. The Latin Kings have become a symbol of power within the Latino community. Scope and influence of Ñetas. Although much smaller in scale, Ñetas still maintain significant influence within Puerto Rico's prison system and local communities. Their deep cultural ties and solidarity make them a force of soft power that is difficult for authorities to completely dismantle. 5. Strengths, weaknesses, outcomes, and legacy. Strengths of Almighty Latin Kings. A highly organized structure ensures effective control, large scale, and the ability to expand power internationally. The blend of cultural and criminal elements helps attract and retain members. Strengths of Ñetas. Strong internal solidarity, particularly in prison environments. Community-focused spirit and cultural attachment sustain their influence. High adaptability in adverse conditions. Weaknesses of Almighty Latin Kings. Large scale makes them an easy target for law enforcement. Internal conflicts and pressure from rival gangs. Negative public perception due to illegal activities erodes community trust. Weaknesses of Ñetas. Limited financial resources and smaller scale. Loose organizational structure makes them vulnerable to fragmentation. Their influence is mostly confined to Puerto Rico and small migrant communities. Outcomes and legacy. Asterisk. Today, both organizations have weakened compared to their peak years. The Latin Kings still have a presence in the US, but their power has diminished due to crackdowns. Ñetas, while not entirely eradicated, remain more of a force within prisons than outside in society. Their legacies differ significantly. The Latin Kings are remembered as a symbol of power within Latino culture, while Ñetas are seen as a support system in the harshest of circumstances. The Almighty Latin Kings and Ñetas, two stories of power, culture, and survival in the underworld. Whatever your opinion of them may be, they remain integral parts of the history of organized crime and societal dynamics. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories. Thank you for watching.